Hello everyone, welcome back to Blue Ridge Silverhound. I'm your host Sean, and as always, if this is your first time here, welcome. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe as we talk about some of our favorite coins that we find out of change. And today I have a really great episode. Some of you have expressed a desire to see more coins that you could pull out of change that maybe, don't exactly look the best of shapes. Well, I have a great one here for you, and that one is going to be the 1970 Washington Quarter. Kind of one of my, deep down darkest favorite dates of Washington Quarters. They're tough to find, compared to a few of the later dated quarters. I don't know. It's always been this iconic date for me, as the U.S. Mint had decided to do away with all silver, ending in 1970 with a 40% Kennedy half dollars. So I figure it's fitting that we talk about this particular date of Washington Quarter. There's a lot to get through, but before we go ahead and jump into the actual meat and bones of the coin you're going to want to look for, along with a few sampler error types that we're going to talk about on this video, I want to take some time to talk about the two what they call business strike coins. All right, so the first one that we see here is going to be a 1970 P. Okay, it's a Philadelphia minted coin. However, on this particular date, there's no actual physical mint mark. It's just going to have 1970. Generally, you'll see some sort of mint mark to the right of the date and just a little bit up in that empty field there under "In God We Trust." Actually, I take that back. You're going to see it just to the right and above the date, not underneath "In God We Trust," because that's on the other side. But anyways, for this particular coin, it's got a smaller mintage, but it's not prohibitively rare. 136,420,000 pieces were produced by the U.S. Mint at that time. Now, if grading is your thing, we're also going to talk a little bit about the grading part of it too. Okay, what's the finest grade for this particular date of coin? Well, Pcgs has assigned a Mint State 67 Plus, in which two examples were graded of that type. It's tough. It's tough to find this particular date, especially the Philadelphia minted coins, where the quality isn't known to be as good as the Denver minted cousin in all of this. It's really tough to see grades of this coin above Mint State 66. So 67 Plus is the highest grade. Pcgs has a price guide value on this coin of $2,500. There have been very few of them out in the marketplace. The one example that you see here on screen sold a few years ago for $2,200 through Heritage Auctions, actually. So it's tough, and when you don't have a lot of sales data to go on, the price is as such. It's just an overall tough date, tough grade. And one in which, if you're able to find one in really nice condition, you definitely have a keeper, as raw examples sell in that $3 to $5 range for a newly minted coin, okay, with nothing else going for it. So if you have a coin that's raw, uncertified, you can get around $3 to $5 a piece. If you had a full roll, those things are worth $100 to $200, depending on what the market is at that given time. But pretty neat date. One that you definitely want to pull out of change just to take a second look at. So the next coin that I wanted to talk about is also the Denver minted coin. Okay, these were circulated at the time when they were minted west of the Mississippi. So, your California, Nevada, Washington, Oregon, those places, along with some of the other states in the Midwest area, you would see these circulate. Now, there was no shortage of the Denver minted coin. 417,341,364 pieces were produced at that time, which is effectively about 2.5 times more than the Philadelphia minted example. In the case of the Denver, like I said, the quality is a lot better. For the Denver minted coins, Mint State 68 is the highest grade assigned by PCGS, in which there are 7 examples that existed. Now, the highest priced coin that has sold in the 68 was one such example that sold on Heritage Auctions January of 2014. This particular example sold for $2,926. If you were going to do an apples-to-apples comparison, if a 1970p example existed in 68, you'll probably be talking about a coin that's worth about $4,000 to $5,000 conservatively, which shows you just how much more rare it is to find a high-grade Philadelphia minted example above and beyond Mint State 66. So, pretty neat fact there. So the coin that I wanted to talk about, which is kind of like the main headline of this particular video, is the 1970D doubled die obverse Washington quarter. Now this thing is one of the top varieties to look for in the Washington quarter series. They are all extremely valuable. Like I had pointed out on my thumbnail, yes, circulated average looking coins sell in the $500 to $1,000 range. As you can see on this close-up thumbnail that you see here, your strongest diagnostics is going to be in the date and also in the motto. The date is unmistakably doubled. The 7 in the date has that pretty wild spread along with the notching. So this is going to be the main diagnostic point for this particular double die. Now keep in mind, there are also a few other doubled dies available for this particular date that are Cherry Picker's Guide variety types. However, they're not worth nearly as much as this coin just because it's not nearly as dramatic or strong as the FS 101 double die obverse of 1970D. So one example did sell through it all. For $949 on Heritage Auctions a short while ago, a few years ago. But this example was graded AU53. So this is the coin that you've seen close-ups and thumbnails and the slabbed images. This is the one to look for, guys. So even coins in less than desirable condition, you know, average circulated, pulled right out of your pocket change type fare, you should definitely keep an eye out for them. They are all extremely valuable. It's one of the strongest double dies that you could find out there for the Washington quarter, especially in the post-silver era of quarters. So you definitely want to keep an eye out for this. And one in which, like I said, worth a lot of money. You don't necessarily have to grade them either to cash in on the bonus of this particular variant. So I want to talk about 3 notable errors that have sold of the 1970 Washington quarter in the past, okay, and they all range from you know, pretty minor to pretty major. I have 3 coins. The first one that I wanted to talk about is this 1970D example that you see here. Now this particular coin was struck on a dime stock, okay. Now to clarify, dime stock simply means the thickness. Okay, there's a noticeable difference in thickness between a quarter and a dime. All right, so whoever supplied the original planchets for these probably by mistake punched out quarter blanks out of a strip intended for dimes. Okay, which is a lot thinner. In this particular instance, the weight of the coin comes out to 4.32 grams, so a scale is going to be handy. And this particular example is graded Annex AU50, and it's sold on Great Collections February 24th of 2019, so pretty recent, for $77.62. Yes, there is a market for these, and above all else, this is the more common error type to find for this particular date. So if you're going through your quarters, or your coin roll hunting, or whatever, keep an eye out for some of those quarters that seem and appear a little bit thinner than the normal quarter stock. Okay, you'll notice the difference because they will be thinner. So the next error that I wanted to discuss is going to be this 1970D Washington quarter. Now this one, in comparison to the first error I talked about, This one was struck on a clad dime planchet. All right, so the blank was the size intended for a dime. Okay, the thickness is still the thickness of a dime. However, it has been punched and cut down to the size of a dime, and then the quarter was struck onto this blank dime planchet. All right, whereas the coin before it, it was just struck on a thin dime planchet. Okay, or thin stock intended for dime punch outs. This particular example here, graded PCGS AU58, and it sold for $388.70 on Heritage Auctions April 9th of 2006. Which goes to show you that not a lot of these do exist in the marketplace. If you were to find one, perhaps it would pop up in dime rolls, because it is comparatively a lot smaller than an actual quarter size. But this is a visually striking error type that you should keep an eye out for. Now the last one, we saved the best for last. Okay, we have a 1970D Washington quarter, in which this particular example was struck on a cent planchet. As you can see, it's got the coppery color, which during that time we had 98% bronze planchets, which were 98% copper, and the other 2% were zinc. This one right here, graded PCGS Mint State 65, although they didn't put down a designation for, like a red-brown or a red. This one looks more red-brown than anything else. This one sold on Heritage Auctions October 25th of 2006 in the amount of $1,150. Keeping in mind, in 2006, the coin market was not as nearly as active and robust as it was 3-4 years later when the recession was happening, because people were actually paying a lot more money for investment type coins. This obviously would have fallen into that bucket of investment type vehicles to hedge against inflation during a recession. So this coin probably could have sold for around $2,000 to $2,500 if it sold a few years later, like in 2009 or 2010. Pretty crazy what a couple years can do to the price of a coin, along with certain market conditions. But anyways, pretty tough to find errors on 1970 quarters. Definitely keep an eye out for all of these. Keep an eye out for those doubled dies if you need more information on those double dies. Of course, you should check out a website like Variety Vista, or simply purchase the Cherry Picker's Guidebook Volume 2, I believe is what it is, for dimes all the way up to gold. And that'll kind of address all of the different types of varieties that you can find in the Washington Quarter Series, all the way into the State Quarter Program and even the National Park Series. A lot of great stuff to be had, to be found. But that double die is worth a ton of money in all sorts of oodles of condition. So I encourage you guys to keep your eyes peeled. And as always, thank you for joining in on this somewhat scatterbrained edition of the Blue Ridge Silverhound What's It Worth episode. I'm your host, Sean, and I want to thank you guys for joining in and all your support and all the views. You guys have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.